We've been invited to test the brand new Bénéteau Swift Trawler 47 down in Port Ginesta in Spain. And we're doing it thoroughly. I've actually arrived the day before the test, and they very kindly lent me this beautiful boat for the whole night, so I can actually sleep on it, shower on it, and generally get really under the skin of it. And then tomorrow we are due to take the boat out for a trip all day. Not quite sure where we're going yet, but I'm sure we'll find somewhere nice, so we can really get to grips with what this boat is all about. So I've been on this boat now for an hour or two, something like that, and it's interesting when you mess around down here on your own how much you notice that you might not notice just with a quick look around. Now, a couple of things that I found on this boat which I'm less keen on, and one of them is this door furniture. Now, it's a small thing, and it has to be said that this is a boat that's been to a couple of boat shows and probably fairly hard used, but all of this just feels really kind of a bit stiff and cheap and naff, and not that great. And this thing here which locks it, well, it doesn't. So you know, we can put that down perhaps to it being a hard used boat, but I kind of feel that stuff like that ought to work. What else? This lighting in here is nice lighting, and you can drop it back like that to just the little window bits, which is quite nice. But other than that, it is very much on or off. Oh, on the right button, there we go. I can't help thinking that dimmers might be a nice thing. What else? While I'm whinging, as we step down here, that's all a bit sort of creaky there as you walk on it. You know, this is stuff that could be fixed. It's not going to spoil your day, but it'd be nice if it wasn't like it. And in here, in the ensuite, this blind, it's there and it works, but it's just a bit sort of, you know, you've got to pull it down and then you've got to kind of hook it on these things here. It's not the most sophisticated of designs. Anyway, there's enough whinging. Things that I like. I love all this space. When you walk around this boat, it feels really big and comfortable. It's sort of proper mini motor yacht stuff rather than just a cabin cruiser. And up here, a couple of things that I really like. So this seat here, now this might sound like a daft thing to say, but some seats on boats, they look great, but they're not actually that comfortable when you come to sit on them. This one, it's really deep and it slopes back here, so that when you sat down, you're sat in it and not on it. And because it goes around with a proper right angle, you've got this lovely corner that you can squeeze yourself right into, which is really nice to sit here and read a book of an evening. And this evening it's Blackfish by Sam Llewellyn, which is a rollicking good read, as I believe the saying has it. And also over on this side, USB ports, tiny thing, but it's a really useful thing because my phone's here, sat here charging away. I can fiddle around without worrying about the battery. And yeah, there's Smuggler's Blues on the front of there. So that's the story so far. Going well, and off to bed shortly. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. So it's early morning Ginesta. I've had a really good night's sleep on this boat actually. It's just rocking very gently, which is always nice. And this morning I've tried out the shower, which is excellent. In fact, it's as good as my shower at home, although that may say more about my shower at home than it does about the boat. Sun's not up yet, but we're making a really early start. We're going to head on down the coast and see where it takes us. So we're just about to cast off and head west, I believe. And it's a different style of cruising with this sort of boat. Although the boat does have quite a high top speed, I think it'll get up into the mid-20s, we'll find out in a bit. It's really about displacement cruising, and we're starting off with a bit of breakfast, but on the move. So whereas on a planing boat you probably have a bit of breakfast and then blast off, with this one I think the idea is to drift gently up the coast with a bit of coffee and something to eat and watch the world slip gently by.
So I thought, since this is a boat test, I really ought to have a go at actually driving it, although it is one of those boats that just seems to sail itself, really. So you put it on autopilot, you point it where you want to go, and then you sort of wander off and have some breakfast or do whatever you want to do. Just keep a general eye out on a regular basis. But we're doing 6.5 knots at the minute, and this is a sort of speed where you would come out of a port in the morning, head on down the coast. You know, if you're going somewhere 30 miles away, well, it'll take you 5 hours, and it's a very pleasant way to travel. But what is impressive is the fuel economy. I'm looking at the dials at the moment, and she's using about 3 litres an hour per engine, so 6 litres in total. It's very, very cheap boating. However, this is a Swift trawler, so we're going to put a Swift into trawler and see what it'll do. And it's a semi-displacement hull. It's not actually a full planing, but it does pick up its skirts and go. The engines on this are a pair of Cummins. They're 425 horsepower each. And you've got a very wide cruising band. Because it is a semi-displacement, there's no real discernible hump. It just picks up and cruises at whatever speed you want to do. Now, flat out, she's doing about 26 knots, maybe 27. We had a little go earlier just to try. But where it seems comfortable is about there. Now that is 20 knots. That's turning over at about 2,500 RPM. And if you do want to put some distance between you and maybe an incoming bad weather or getting back somewhere to catch a flight or something, well then you can cruise at this just as comfortably as you can cruise at 8. Clearly it's using a bit more fuel. We're using about 100 litres an hour now. But it does mean you've got that sort of dual purpose to the boat. In terms of handling, well, handling is probably a bit of a strong word, it's just steering really, but it is pretty positive. You've got this massive wheel here, and you spin this, and that spins the boat. It's not exactly pin and sharp sports cruiser stuff, but it's not a pin and sharp sports cruiser. It's a big, comfortable distance machine. But it will turn with a reasonable degree of alacrity. It banks very gently into the turn as it goes. But it's not what this boat is about. And in fact, what this boat is really about, I think, is dropping that speed back down, back to sort of 7-8 knots as we were. All nice and quiet, nice and serene. Put the autopilot on and relax. So while we're ambling along at this relaxed pace, it's a good opportunity to give you a good look around this boat. Now, Bénéteau tell us that this boat is very popular with retired couples, for example, and the kind of people who want to spend a long time on board. So it's designed very much for practicality over style. And there's some really quite neat details. And it starts out here on the bathing platform. For a start, this door here is really wide. It opens on 2 sides, and that is wide enough to take a wheelchair. So if you have got somebody who needs a bit more assistance, you can get a chair through there. And the bathing platform here, 2 versions. You can have a fixed one, or you can have a high-low platform. So if you want to carry a bigger dinghy, you can do. If you don't need one, then you can just manually pull a dinghy up. But what is quite nice is these little fellas here, because they just flip into position like that, and that obviously then mounts your dinghy just there with enough room to walk behind it. And of course there's an option of a passerelle out there. Once we come into the cockpit, again, they've tried to sort of maximise space. So when you're cruising and you're using the flybridge, you have everything like this. But if you're on port and you're entertaining out here, and you don't want to use the upper deck, there's a little foot pedal back here, and this whole thing slides away, so you have this whole area here. So if you're going to put a table out here and some chairs, you've got a lot more space. And that accessibility extends to the whole boat. And one place that's particularly obvious is on the side deck. So Bénéteau have put asymmetric side decks on this boat. That means the one on the port side is a little narrower, although it's still perfectly usable, but the one on this side is absolutely massive. You get a real sort of little ship feel with this big overhang here and this section here that you walk through. And in fact, they've even put a windbreak just here to give you a bit more shelter in the cockpit. And as we move forward, a couple of neat details. You've got filler caps hidden in behind places like this. There's a massive door here to the helm and into the saloon generally, so that gives you great ventilation or more access. But also there's a door just here, so this bulwark is very high, but you can open this, so if you're alongside a pontoon, you've got access just there as well. And as we head forward again, of course, you've got your foredeck. Now as we come right to the front, you've got a sun pad on here, which is pretty conventional, but what is a nice touch is they put a backrest in here. That lifts up like that, and on a day like today when we're mooching along at 8 knots, this is a great place to sit, look at the coast go by, maybe even spot a couple of dolphins. So the last bit on the outside to have a look at is of course the flybridge. Now Bénéteau have kept this completely open at the back here, so you can have a couple of steamer chairs, or you can put a table and a couple of chairs out here for a cocktail. There's space for a life raft over here, so that's got a neat touch, and they put the barbecue back here as well. So you've got the option of a barbecue here, and then as standard you get a sink and a fridge and a bin. And what's quite nice is by putting this at the back end of the dinette area, when you're at anchor, inevitably of course the boat is head to wind, so your smoke from the barbecue, if you have one, is heading out behind you. Now further forward, there's a couple of things to talk about. This bimini, there are two options for this. There's the canvas one that we've got here, and they put a neat little light in here as well, but you can have a GRP bimini on here if you prefer, and that of course means that you can then enclose it all the way around to make this into another living area. And then here you've got a massive dinette area. There's a table that unfolds just here and loads of seating, but one thing I do particularly like is up here at the central helm you've got a lovely helm seat, but of course you end up a little bit on your own sometimes up here with nowhere for anyone to sit. So what they've done is made these backrests flip the other way, and that means with that one over there, 4 people can sit up here together taking the view under the shelter of this quite tall screen here. It just makes a lovely, nice, sociable place to be if you want to be outside. So the last thing to talk about is the interior. Now I mentioned this a little bit last night, but let's go into it in a bit more depth in terms of what it's actually got. So just here, these are massive fridge drawers, and in fact you can swap that for a freezer if you prefer. The settee over on this side has got a sofa bed built into it, which is a really decent size, and what's quite neat is they put a curtain at the front around, so you can curtain this area off and have it as an individual cabin, and people coming up from downstairs or into the galley area can go out of the boat through that side door, of course. Further forward you've got the galley itself, 3-burner gas hob. You can have electric if you prefer, of course, and there's a gas oven just there. And in fact there's a pop-up section over here, and you have a microwave as an option that can come up out of here, or you can have a combination microwave there and use that as storage. But there's also space for a dishwasher here as well, and then you've got even more fridge compartments down over here. So down here on the lower deck you have got a 3-cabin layout. Now this cabin in here, this is fairly low headroom in this one, but you've got a standing area to go in, and that's a double bed, and then you've got 2 singles in a port cabin. That's got a lot more space in it, a lot more headroom, and in fact there is an infill, so if people want the space and a double bed they can do that. There's also day heads just over here on the port side, and this locker here is big enough to take a domestic washer dryer. So again, if you're spending long periods on the boat, you've got the ability to wash your clothes. But they've saved the best for the master cabin. This area, everything forward of here is the master cabin. You've got a big central, and I can vouch for the fact that it's comfortable, double bed, and you've also got a separate toilet on one side and shower on the other, so that makes that a really nice owner suite. So we're now approaching midday. We've had a really nice amble up the coast in this boat, and while we've been having breakfast and filming and wandering about and enjoying the day, we've pretty much arrived at our destination further up the coast. So we're going to stop here, we're going to have a bit of lunch, and then this afternoon we'll amble back. But that is exactly what this boat is about. It's not about tearing around with your hair on fire, it's about going out, nice gentle cruising speed, and just watching the coast drift by and having a nice day on board.